You probably think you know Fahrenheit 451, right? It's that classic story about a future where firemen burn books. But what if I told you the popular take on this masterpiece gets its single most important warning completely backward? Let's dive in. Okay, this has to be one of the most chilling opening lines in all of literature. It was a pleasure to burn. Right away, you're dropped into the mind of Guy Montag, a man who actually enjoys his job, which is destruction. So the obvious question is, what's he so happy about burning? Well, in Ray Bradbury's world, the job title fireman is flipped completely on its head. These guys don't put out fires, they start them. Their job is to incinerate homes to get to their real target, books. And really, it's not just the paper they're after. It's the complex, messy, and sometimes dangerous ideas hidden inside. So first, let's talk about that image we all know so well, the world that literally puts knowledge to the flame. This is the version of the story that's become absolutely iconic. Yeah, this is the version we all learned in school. A big, scary, top-down government forces censorship on a helpless population. It's a simple, powerful story about state oppression. But here's the thing. It's not the whole story. In fact, it's not even the main story Bradbury was trying to tell. So if it's not just about a tyrannical government, what was Bradbury really warning us about? The answer is, well, it's a lot more uncomfortable, and it hits much closer to home than a simple story about Big Brother. Let's ask the question directly then. Is the government really the villain here? Or what if the firemen were just the final step in a process that the people themselves actually started? And this is the crucial difference. The myth on the left is that the government forced this on people. But Bradbury's reality on the right, it says the people demanded censorship. The fire didn't come down from the state. It came up from the people. Society wasn't forced into this. It chose it. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Bradbury said it himself loud and clear. He said his biggest fear wasn't a totalitarian state. It was a population that was so distracted, so overstimulated by mass media, that it would just stop caring about difficult ideas. The real enemy wasn't oppression. It was apathy. In the book, the fire captain, Beatty, gives this incredible speech where he lays out exactly how it all went down. He says as life got faster and TV got louder, people just stopped wanting complexity. Then different groups started complaining, saying, "This book offends me," or "I don't like what that author says." And pretty soon, society as a whole willingly traded challenging thoughts for easy, feel-good entertainment. The firemen, Beatty argues, weren't tyrants. They were just, and this is a quote, "custodians of our peace of mind," basically giving the majority what it asked for. To really get why Bradbury was so obsessed with this idea, you have to look at the world he was living in when he wrote the book. It didn't come from a vacuum. I mean, the early 1950s were a perfect storm of anxiety. You had the Cold War, the constant fear of nuclear war. You had Senator McCarthy's Red Scare, which created this culture of suspicion where neighbors were informing on neighbors, a huge theme in the book. And while all of that was going on, a new technology was quietly invading almost every home in America. Just look at this graph. It's absolutely staggering. In 1950, just 9% of American homes had a TV. A single decade later, 90%. That isn't just a new appliance, that's a fundamental rewiring of an entire culture, of how people spent their free time and, more importantly, how they got their information. And people noticed. Critics were getting worried. Just a few years after the book came out, the actual head of the FCC called American television a vast wasteland. He was basically echoing Bradbury's fears, that this powerful new medium was being filled with mindless, conformist entertainment, and that wasteland was the perfect breeding ground for a society that would eventually decide to just burn its own books. And this is where a science fiction novel from 1953 gets, well, kind of frighteningly relevant. Let's take a look at how Bradbury's futuristic gadgets look less like fantasy and more like our actual daily reality. So in the book, people are glued to their parlor walls. These are giant interactive screens that stream a constant flow of drama, and the characters even call the people on screen their family. Sound familiar? It is the 1950s version of an endless algorithm-driven social media feed, something designed to keep you passively hooked 24/7. Then you've got the seashell radios. Montag's wife Mildred is never without them. They're these tiny earpieces that feed her a constant river of music and noise, blocking out silence, the outside world, even her own husband. It's an uncanny prediction of how wireless earbuds have become a part of us, creating these personal audio bubbles that can isolate us from the world and even from our own thoughts. And then there's the mechanical hound. It's this terrifying robotic hunter that tracks down and kills anyone who dares to be different. Today, we might not have a physical robot dog doing that, but we absolutely have digital surveillance and algorithms that monitor our behavior, flag dissent, and enforce a different kind of conformity online. The hunter has just changed its form. So, the book is a warning about a society that willingly gives up its books to avoid being offended. And this, right here, leads us to the final, the most perfect and the most biting irony of all. That's right. The book that serves as our most powerful warning against censorship is itself one of the most frequently censored books out there. You couldn't make this up. Bradbury didn't just write a story, he basically predicted his own book's future. And why is it banned? Look at these real-world reasons. It has bad language. It talks about uncomfortable things like suicide. It has scenes that some people feel are anti-religious, like when a Bible is burned. These are precisely the kind of reasons Captain Beatty gave for why book burning started in the first place. It was about removing anything that might offend anyone. The fiction has literally become fact. So the big takeaway here isn't just about some evil government that might one day come for our books. The novel asks a much more personal, much more unsettling question. It asks us to look at ourselves. In our endless search for entertainment and in our growing desire to avoid anything that challenges or offends us, are we slowly, bit by bit, lighting the fire ourselves?